On this episode, we're going to see if Chloe's second engine will fire up. Hopefully I can get the first one fired up and the second one fired up.
Yeah, I'm the one to get it, bruh. I swear to God I'll get it, bruh. Hey, I ain't never giving up. Yeah, I never give up. I got this, man, I got it. I will not quit, I'm on it. Never rock it. Got the block lit, I'm toxic. Spitting logic, make them nauseous. Honest, can I stop this? Never cautious, drop it. I'm the hardest. Knock, knock, bitch, watch it. I'm the fucking king of rock, bitch. Poppin', spitting hot shit. I'm topic, chronic. I think I'm motherfucking lost it.
Alright, let's have a look at all this wiring that I've got for this car. And we'll see if we can get it put in. And then we'll start on the fuel system. And we'll see if we can get this to bark off. So I've literally just knocked off work and I'm straight into it. So let's have a look at what we got. Here's the box of all the wiring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to span it out here because it looks like it's going to rain. So I'll span this out accordingly as it would be in the car, and then we'll see where we go and see if I can run this engine off as little of that as possible. So I'll span it out. All right, so I've got it all spanned out. If you imagine the blue box is the engine, this is how the loom goes. So like here, oops, I'm tripping over it now. So these are your alternator plugs and everything, which will go to where the alternator is. This stuff here is for your intake manifold and everything like that. This is where the battery is with the fuse panel and everything. And that. And then you come through, that's the grommet that went through the passenger side, ran along the dash, and this is the shit fight that was underneath the steering wheel. You can see the key barrel and everything there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook all this up, but I'm going to try and make it so this grommet and this grommet here are just behind the front seats. So then, that way when I put a firewall in, the engine wiring can stay out there. This can go underneath the seats and you won't see it. So that's the plan. Whether it'll work, I don't know, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. So there's 3 individual looms here. I'll start feeding the engine bay ones on and towards the seats, and we'll see where they go, how they end up, and see how I can make this work. All right, progression update. I've got all the wiring in the engine. As you can see, it's all there. All the stuff for the manifolds on. Everything's around the side. I've even put in the fuse panel there, and I've got the main loom running down through here and around. Now, that's not fastened, it's just laying there, so don't worry. And it's coming around to here. I've got all the secondary loom coming down and around the front, well, what was the back of the engine, coming down and around. There's a couple of earth points I've got to put on, which I'll do, and then it comes down here to where the ECU is going to be. So they're all small plugs, which means I can feed them through the firewall when I make it. So the ECU is probably going to sit about here. But the thing I've got to figure out is this shit fight. The problem, I was hoping to keep the dash cluster out of that second car, but these 2 wires are for that, and they're not very long compared to that. So I'm contemplating on leaving that out at the moment. As long as it runs, it should be fine, and everything like that. I haven't started to neaten this up. This was one of those tree jobbies, so I've plumbed it all together. I'll fold it in half again, zip tie it so it's even smaller, so it fits under the seat. I'll bolt all that down. There's the body control. That's the Smartra system there. The ECU is in the garage. And then the barrel, I was planning on actually putting in the cup holder, because if you have a look, it's got a groove there. It's like it's made for it. So basically, if I unplug it, if I can do that one-handed, if I unplug it and put a bar in here or something, like if I take the bottom out, I can't see why I can't put that there like that. Hey, I mean, that'll work, right? So if I do that, then I can just feed the wires out of here into the bottom of the seat. No one's gonna know.
Nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
You wouldn't even know. So that's a game plan there. Saves me having to pull it all apart and everything and fucking around like that. So that's the game plan for that. I'll probably try and fasten that in there somehow. Wire it up. All that. That's the wiring for the ECU. Because the other problem I had was these two wires go into these two here. So if I just keep that at the back, maybe get that to face up somehow like that, then that way all I gotta do is just flip the seat forward and I can sort it out if there is an issue. So that's probably the way I'm gonna go. I'll hook into this and then we'll get the seat back in. We'll add some, and then we'll start on the fuel system and see how we go there.
A few moments later.
Trying to film an episode and all I got is the neighbour's dogs barking. This will be all day until they come home. Oh, they might have stopped. No, there we go. Fuck this. Alright, so I've got the fuse panel mounted. The barrel's just sitting here for now till I get the car running. Once it's running, I'll neaten all this up. So I've got earth point, I've got an earth point, I've got the ECU here all plugged in. So now what I'm going to try and do is make a start on the fuel system. So I will, this is the plug that went to it. One's a power, negative, and then for the sender, but I'm not going to worry about the sender units. I'm just going to take the power and the negative and I'm going to run it over to a relay that's going to be over here, and then I will plumb the fuel pumps up to the two relays and everything like that. So I'll basically use them as a switching power. I'll run a power from there to the relays and everything like that and get all that incorporated together. So we'll get onto this fuel system. I'm going to make the plate for there and then we will start mounting everything. Alright, so I made the side, I got the fuel cell in, I've got it wired up to a couple of relays. I found the wire that comes off that fuel sender unit and everything like that. Comes along, down here, I've got two pumps wired in. One line goes to the front, one line goes into this rear engine. So I'll show you what I've done up the front and we'll go from there. Alright, so all I've done is use the breather line. So there's the hose there and it comes along and into the rail in there with a hose clamp, right? And then what we're going to do now is try and fire it up. All right, so just so everyone's aware, the way I've got this set up is that when I've got to start the first engine to start the second one. Okay, so the ECU from the first engine is going to prime the lines and then it's going to run the pumps. Now, there's two separate relays, two separate pumps and everything for the engines. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank the first engine and get that to fire up. And then we will immediately start the second engine and hopefully that will fire up too. So first off, I'm going to prime it a couple of times because it's got that auto prime jobby when you turn the key to reds. And just make sure there's no leaks to the first engine, simply for the fact that I have used the return line. So we'll see how that is and we'll go from there. All right, so the big question is, will this thing prime? So I hooked up some power to the rear. It's only via a jump lead and that, but it's enough for now until I get a cable made all the way to the rear. So we'll see if we can get this to prime. I don't know. It's not priming. Radio's doing something. Come on. I'll give it a minute and see what happens. Alright, let's try again. Still nothing. Why? All right, so let's try again. Let's see if this will prime up. No. What if I crank it? Oh. If I go to crank it, it goes. Hey, that's something. All right, let's check outside and make sure there's no leaks. All right, so one of the lines comes under here to the breather. That's brake fluid from the cut line. I know that for a fact, but there's no leaks there. And then if we go around to the front and check the line, so there's the breather line there that I've connected into, and there's the rail fitting, and that seems to be all right too. So I think it's time to try and fire these up. There's no leaks here. There's none at the cell, none at the pumps, and there's none up here. I'm gonna call that a win. So, all right. All right, so as you heard, it was priming. I'm gonna try and start the first engine, and then I'm gonna try and fire up this second one immediately after, because the pump will be running. So this is gonna test, tried or true, if this back one's gonna run. I'm pretty confident the front one will, but we'll see what happens with the back one. Make sure it's out of gear. Oh, actually, I probably should check that the back one's out of gear. I don't even know how to check it. I might just try and crank the rear one first. All right, that's out of gear. So now I'll crank the first one, get the pumps running, and we'll crank the second one, see if that fires up. Come on. No bueno. Why? Everything's running. It should work. Let me dig around, see what I can find. All right, so after a bit of investigation, I found that I actually had the fuel pumps feeding the wrong way. Sorry about the wobbling. I've got it up on the visor, and sorry about the dogs. Fuckwit neighbours. So anyways, we're going to try and fire this up now. I'll start the first engine, like I said, and then I'll try and fire up the second one, and we'll see what we get. So the first ECU is going to run both pumps. So it's just a matter of simply getting the front one started so the pumps are running, and then I can fire up the back one, and we'll see what happens there. All right? So let's see if this works. There's the first engine. There's the second engine. We got it. It runs. It's alive. Hey. Hey. I have a dual engine jet. It works. It does it. It does the thing. All right. I don't know now. I'm lost. All right. We'll have a bit of a walk around, suss out the damage. All right. So I'm going to leave this episode on a high. Since all the dogs are quiet now and I can actually fucking record. So anyways, you've seen it run. Everything's all going as it should be. The first engine's good. Second engine's good. Everything like that. So next up, I'm going to try and sort out these linkages and get the brake lines going, so then maybe we can have a go at driving this thing. Also, I've got to buy a couple of radiators and try and get them plumbed up because the front one is leaking. I do want to replace that and get the thermofan to run constant. I want to put one in the back, obviously, for the second engine, and get that plumbed up and get a fan and get that running constantly as well. So next episode, we'll try and nut out the gear linkages and get an exhaust on this thing. And then after that, we'll do the cooling systems. And then after that, we will be driving this bad boy. I do have a R&D center, believe it or not. I do. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be some on the R&D. There's going to be some on Chloe as well, because we're so close to getting this thing to run and drive and have some fun in it. So we'll take it out at the farm and put it through her paces. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. So like I said, like, subscribe, and share. You know, I've really been enjoying this build. I've been enjoying the compliments and the support you guys have been giving me. So make sure to like and subscribe. To subscribe helps me out a heap. So like, subscribe, and share. And I will, as always, I will see you guys in the next episode.
Nobody's gonna know.